Oh. We good? Hello and welcome to the fourth ever Imaginary Game Club, the March edition. That's the third month of the year, I think, right? Yeah, and we started in December. We played through Off, a Belgian surrealist RPG maker game, then Xenoclash, a surrealist beat-em-up brawler, and then the bane of my existence, Banjo-Kazooie and the Jiggies of Time. I say that with all the love in my heart. It's a very well-made game. I appreciate all the work and effort they put into it, and I'm glad that I played it. I'm just not glad that I played it for 20 hours. I would have been much gladder if I played it for 10, something like that. But don't worry, have no fear. From this point on, I have learned my lesson, and I will ensure that every single video game we pick for the Imaginary Game Club will be thoroughly vetted, 100%, no fake. What is the Imaginary Game Club, you ask? It is a monthly book club, but for video games. So each month we're going to pick out a brand new, or in many cases, older video game that is shorter. Try and keep them under 10 hours max. More obscure, something that you probably haven't played before, and typically easier to access. So this month's title is, of course, Neon Abyss, an indie action platformer, roguelike, bullet hell, shooter, looter. It's all sorts of things. And it's, at the time of this recording, if you were here for the Steam sale, I think it was maybe about $5. And then if you really wanted to go all in with the DLC, it would have been another $5 on top of that. I think normally it might be about $15-20. But if you're interested in Neon Abyss and you haven't picked it up at the time of the sale, maybe just wait for another one. And of course, as always, we're going to start off with a spoiler-free section, so you can learn a little bit more about the game and decide if maybe this is something for you. And like last time, we have a video version of this podcast, so I'm super happy that YouTube is giving me ads on my backgrounds. Do I have to commit and buy YouTube Premium like some sort of a chump? I think I do.
You know I am a chump.
Without any further ado, allow me to welcome this month's guest, or rather, allow me to welcome him to welcome himself. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
I'm Brendan. I've been watching the stream since you started, I guess.
Cheers, brother.
But I've known you for a crazy long time at this point. So
we go way back. Of course, you've helped out with some of the game dev stuff in the past. We worked on Showdown at Desert Bus, I believe it was called.
Yep, I definitely was not one of the main contributors on that. I was there in spirit. I did menus because I am the best coder, and that's where all the best coders go, the menu.
Hey now, all right? I'll have you know, I worked on the UI team for Halo Infinite, so be careful what you say, bud, about us UI programmers.
Okay, we menu coders have to be somewhere.
That's where the real money is. They don't tell you that. Everybody wants to make gameplay, but nah, man. If you make menus, people will love you forever. That's just the way of things.
But yeah, mostly I'm a League of Legends player. I play nothing but League.
I think that's good. We should get a little bit of your gaming background here so that, people listening can get some context for where your opinions are coming from. So as he's already mentioned, he's a League of Legends player. So from this point on, you can just disregard everything he says.
And just watch out for any, if you attack me, I'm going after you. So, watch out.
This guy doesn't even like when you're playing support in Italy. So, I mean, what am I even supposed to do?
Support in Italy, but it's making a comeback, and I'm very upset about it.
Yeah. All right, next month on the Imaginary Game Club, League of Legends.
I'm in it. You know what? I'm in it regardless.
I mean, if you've been playing the game for how long has it been out? That's got to be a number every League of Legends player has at the top of their mind, just constantly reminding them, oh my god.
I want to say.
I've been playing this game since 2010. What have I been doing with my life?
I started season 2, so we saw Talon get released. Definitely my OC do not.
And that's not Talon who was on last month's podcast.
No.
That's Talon, the character Talon. I remember when Talon was released, but I'm going to date myself even further because I thought he was one of the newer characters when I stopped playing.
That might be true. I think it was like Wukong, Leona, Talon. I think
Really?
I remember that was like
I thought Wukong and Leona were like OGs.
they were later.
Okay.
I haven't gotten them on the Lodal in a while, so.
Okay.
But for the most part, I've been playing like I mostly dive into RTS. I keep telling myself, and I'll even say that for this podcast, I chose yet again a platformer, and I'm not good at platformers. I do not know why. I keep convincing myself that platformers are good for me, and I like it. Not good.
I think there is, and this is something interesting to talk about. I think there's like an inherent stigma in the gaming community that if you're a gamer, you have to like platformers because there's like that's like the OG video games. Every one of the formative video games in our generation's years was a platformer. Whether you're talking about Mario, you're talking about Banjo, you're talking about Crash, you're talking about Spyro, you're talking about Jack. That was the era of platformers.
Yeah, I mean, not gonna. Every time I look at the Mario Maker speedruns or like I watch Little Curb.
Little Curbs. Oh, he's great. If you haven't seen Little Curbs, check him out on YouTube. His videos are about 3 minutes long, and he shows how to beat Mario forever.
It shows you how inadequate you will forever be compared to his level.
Especially because he first tries every time.
He never fails.
Yeah, which I'm coming at this from a different negative angle of I like platformers. I like me some Crash. I like me some Spyro. I like me some Marios. But for some reason, the old school side scroller aesthetic just doesn't click with me as much as it seems to with most other people, and I think that's probably because I grew up with the Crash Bandicoots and the Spyros and the Marios. I did not grow up with the Mega Mans and the Sonics. My neighbors
Metroid or anything. Yeah.
No Metroid. My neighbors had the Super Nintendo. They had the Sega Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go over there and I'd play the Sonics. I'd play the Street Fighters. But that wasn't my go-to. That wasn't my origin story as a gamer. But this game, Neon Abyss, it has so many check marks about it.
I'm trying to figure out how do you want to pace this. So
for right now, let's stay spoiler free. So if you haven't picked out Neon Abyss just yet, we'll take this from the top. We'll just give kind of our initial impressions. One thing I do want to talk about is a little bit of our context behind the game. So I think the core of this game, the heart of this game is roguelike. Yes. So what roguelikes have you played coming into this?
So Rogue Legacy, I've played that game about 1,000 times.
Okay.
It's just like, or very similarly, that game is a lot more dependent on platforming.
Yes.
Harder, in my opinion.
Yes.
And I did a lot of Darkest Dungeon, and I feel like I've done a lot more roguelikes, but I can't think of them because a lot of them I just kind of give up after a while with them.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am with a lot of roguelikes too. And we can get into that a little bit more once we in the spoiler section when we're talking about like the progression in Neon Abyss, because that I think is a really big driver of what makes the roguelike experience both so addicting and also so forgettable. I don't know, I'm probably gonna make a lot of enemies by saying that, but I played a lot of Rogue Legacy. I didn't play it to completion, but I did like Rogue Legacy for being a very strategic game in terms of the way Rogue Legacy works is you pick a different generation of character. Every time your character dies, you play a descendant of that character, and it's got a merits and flaw system, much like hitting me now, YouTube. All right. If you wanna support the stream, or this isn't the stream, this is the podcast. Support the podcast. Help me pay for my YouTube Premium subscription, please. Go to Steam, buy Meticulous. It's a diet and health companion. It'll help you lose a bunch of weight, put on all the muscle you've ever wanted. It's a great game. It's only $30, and it's just as good, if not better, than any health guru nutritionist that you're going to pay a heck of a lot more than that, or any stupid phone app that you got to pay $150 monthly subscription for. Don't rent out your health. Buy it forever with Meticulous on Steam.
Oddly, I've been starting a new program as well. So I was doing
all right.
So for a while, I was doing like this ChatGPT program. It was very funny because someone said it as a joke, and I was like, "Hey, you know what? We'll try it." I just,
All right.
all right, ChatGPT, make me a workout program,
Mm-hmm.
and it gave me this horrendous schedule, and I was like, "I'm gonna do it. It's gonna be funny, if nothing else." But like, it gave me, I think it made me work out 6 days out of the week. To be fair, I do think what they were suggesting is possible because it was only like hyper targeting like single muscle group. So,
Sure.
and like it was like going like to the where it was just like targeting like shoulders and legs and chest and biceps or something. But I did that for a while and I was just like, okay, I'm done with this. I physically do not want to see this lady at the gym anymore. Kind of over. So I gave up, or not gave up, but I took a break from it, and I found like a workout book, and they were like, okay, here's an 8-week program.
Okay.
And it's just going to be like, you're going to work out 4 days a week. I'm like, that's 2 less than 6. So we're already on a good track.
Pick the target muscles you really want to focus on, hit those when you're fresh, make sure you get 10 to 20 sets a week, and you're good to go.
All I know is that last week it was high weight, low reps, and I wanted to die. So that was not a good one.
Yeah, the way that I handle my progressive overload is I find a weight that's comfortably challenging at somewhere between 8 to 10 reps, and then I'll work up 4 reps from there at the same weight, and then once I get to that like 12 to 15 rep range, then I'll up the weight and drop back down to reps. So typically, if you're putting together a program for yourself, you kind of want to start at what they call MAV, minimum effective volume, like what's the least amount of training that you can do to start to generate a hypertrophic stimulus, and you want to work up from that to your MRV, or your maximum recoverable volume, of literally just how much can you possibly do until you just fall over dead. And then you take a week or two to deload, do some recovery training, just like cut your weight and reps down by half, just take it real nice and easy, let your body come back, and then you do that over again.
Originally, I used to follow the rule that if I could lift it 6 times, then that I can do that weight. But if I ever go under 6, then I need to reduce the weight.
That's pretty heavy. At that point, I would consider that not training for hypertrophy, but training for strength.
Yeah, and like 10 is my maximum. So like if I hit 10 comfortably and I'm not sore after 10, I'm just like, okay, I probably need to buff the weight up and go back and try and hit the 8 or 6.
You can definitely go past 10. I've seen people recommend as high as 30, and that there's kind of different weight ranges that you want to target. If you want to do really heavy weight, that's like your 8 to 12. You want to do medium weight, that's like your 15. And you want to do lightweight, that's like 25 to 30. If you're doing more than 30, then yeah, what are you doing? You're just moving your arms around. Let's raise it up a little bit. But it also can be helpful in between programs to kind of switch between those. So like maybe you were doing heavy weights on your biceps one program, next week or next program you come along, you say, all right, let's try medium weight, let's try lightweight, see how that hits the muscle.
So far, the new program is like, I like it a lot because like I get every week. I'm like, oh, it's a whole new routine. Woo!
See, that's pretty fun. And guess what? You can get a new routine that specifically targets every muscle group that you want to target and the exact amount that you want to target with the press of a button, all with the help of Meticulous. So if that sounds good to you, it's on Steam, $30. Wrap the plug up. We made it all the way back to the beginning, and now we can get to the fun part, into Neon Abyss. I mean, come on, you gotta like an ad that's like, it's a video game that I made. It's direct support for the thing. You didn't even have to buy a stupid GamerSup. That's a big waste of your time and money, unless if GamerSup wants to support the podcast, in which case GamerSup sounds great. So, Neon Abyss, roguelike. We were talking about Rogue Legacy, and to me, that's a little bit more of the strategic experience than Neon Abyss.
You get a lot of decisions in Rogue Legacy. There's a lot more of like, because like you can have a light character, heavy character.
Yeah, so that's right. The way the characters are set up is it's based on a merits and flaws system, a lot like any tabletop role-playing game you may have played before. So like
flatulence and stuff.
Your character might be colorblind, and then it literally turns your game black and white. It's really cute. It's really fun. But it's an important choice of what kind of a character are you going to take in versus then the gameplay is typically more hack and slash. It's more physical. It seems more fast-paced, even though stuff on the screen is moving around really fast in Neon Abyss. There's a lot more gameplay strategy, tactics that goes into.
I think there's a lot. This is probably going to be like, here's a spoiler for like my for Neon Abyss. There is not a lot of strategy to be had in Neon Abyss. It feels.
Yeah, it's more action. It's much more action game than strategy game like you get in a lot of roguelikes, which is interesting to me because in my brain that's kind of what defines the roguelike genre, is the strategic element that feels somewhat missing from Neon Abyss.
Yeah, like for instance, like I don't know if it gets like way more deep or way more deeper later in the game, but like for the first 4 characters, I don't think I made a single decision that I wouldn't make on all of them. Like,
yeah,
like I had the one guy who did a roll. There was the girl who got free melee attacks, and I was like, they cost something. And I don't know if that's true or not. But
I definitely want to get more into the characters because spoiler, I did buy the DLC, which, I'm already out here pitching somebody else's video game, saying that you should spend your money on somebody else's video game because I'm just that altruistic and I want to spread the love for all indie games. DLC is not worth it. It gives you bonus characters. If you're still trying to figure out do you want to buy the game, don't worry about buying the DLC. You get a few extra characters that didn't really add too much to the game, and then you also get what is kind of interesting. One of the DLCs unlocks a second version of all the existing characters that slightly manipulates their abilities.
Okay.
But the manipulations didn't seem significant enough to warrant an interesting decision. So the starter female character, she goes from having 4 health to having 3 health, and then when you finish a level, you get a choice of 2 abilities instead of 1. So it's like, okay, that's cute, but it doesn't dramatically change your experience of the game. And that's one of the more significant ones in my memory. As far as other roguelikes go, the one that I've been playing, well, I have played a lot of recently, I'm done with it now, was Hades. Did you ever play Hades?
Yeah, I know where you're coming from with Hades.
Yeah. I definitely want to talk a little bit more about Hades once we get into spoilers because there's some weird tie-ins going on there.
Yep.
But same thing there, where to me it seems like there was a lot of minute or second to second gameplay decisions in Hades that you were making, and a lot more setup decisions that you were making in Hades in terms of like which weapons you want to bring and which gods you're going to try and appease and all that stuff. It felt a little bit shallow or missing.
Yeah, especially when you're comparing it to Hades. Hades has like there's like an obvious passion to that, like where you have to like really think about how you're gonna like appease each god if you get it.
Yeah,
and you want to dive into that, and there's that mechanic does exist in Neon Abyss. I assume, well, it's Ares, and I do not know the Greek god of
Athena.
Wisdom. Is it Athena?
I don't know that she's explicitly the Greek god of wisdom, because she's the Greek god of many things, including war and prosperity and who knows what else. That's just how they did it back then. But yeah, you're talking about the faith meter is what it's called.
Yeah, because after watching your stream, you've pointed out to me that you could actually just click the room and just go there, and I was very upset to find out that I just lost items close to the entire game.
Yeah. So an important thing to know going into Neon Abyss is there are fast travel points in each of the levels, and at certain points you will unlock a secret room that's not attached to the rest of the level, and it's highlighted in orange. And it doesn't explicitly tell you this, but if you'll notice, there's a tiny little crystal icon on the top of that map square that looks similar to the fast travel nodes. So with my intense UI gamer brain knowledge and 420 IQ, I realized you can actually fast travel to that only after having missed out on 5 hours of possible rewards.
This is probably like going to be a recurring theme with Neon Abyss, is that there are a lot of like details and rules to the game that I think get unlocked later.
Yes. So we've been pretty negative so far, but yeah. Let's stroke it off a little bit, just for people who are, still thinking about, do you want to play this game? I don't want to be too negative about it yet. I'll get much more negative in the spoiler section, but let's talk about some of the positive points. So the rules are cool. I like the idea that as you play the game, you get yellow crystal currency that you can spend to unlock new rules for the game, which can take the form of new rooms that you'll encounter, new vendors that you'll encounter.
Different ways to find secrets and
Yeah.
just more utility for the game, which is awesome. I like that. That was cool.
What makes it really cool to me is that it's not just about buying upgrades, but that there are rules for the tile generation, and you can choose to turn them on and off. So if there's stuff that you don't like, you can say, get it out of there and just find the stuff that I do like, so that you can increase the likelihood of finding the upgrades that you want, getting the secrets that you want, progressing in the way that you want. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And like I have been negative on it, but like I did enjoy I really did enjoy like Neon Abyss for the most part, where there was like you had to play. It really rewarded you for playing well. Where it rewarded you for playing well at the very beginning, where like it's just you and your default gun, and like you had to work your way to get the guns, and you had to like play off of your very limited buffs. Toward the end, it feels like Balturo, where like you could just
haven't played that one yet. Is it good?
Oh, I love it.
Good to know.
But it's like one of those games where like you play it, and like at one point you don't need to think anymore, and that feels pretty awesome. I'm going to walk in there and I'm just going to destroy everything with my my combo. I have about a bajillion eggs. I have a gun that increases the bullet size per egg that I have. It also generates eggs, and I'm just shooting massive. My screen is completely covered with my bullets, which is pretty awesome.
I don't know if you peeked into the last stream that I did just last night before recording this, but I had enough eggs to cover the screen, I think, 3 times back and forth. It was absolutely insane by that point. And that is not smart, but it is satisfying. There's definite dopamine in just seeing an entire army of little babies flying behind you, causing chaos.
Or like Vampire Slayer.
Vampire Survivors?
Yeah, Vampire Survivors. Where you're just a walking ball of death. You know what? That's awesome. I'm just here. Cool, boss. I gotta go.
The other thing that's really cool about it, and I don't know how much you played around with this, is the basement. So between levels, you get dropped off in a hub world that's like a nightclub or a bar or whatever, and you can take a little elevator to go downstairs into the basement. And the basement is a codex of everything that you've encountered in the game. It's got all the upgrades that you found, all the weapons that you found, all of the egg little companions that you can collect and hatch, and all of the enemies that you've encountered. And you can just straight up turn off anything that you don't like. So if you get an upgrade you don't like, get it out of there. If there's an egg companion you don't like, he's gone. If there's a gun that sucks, you don't ever need to see it again. And with the enemies, I didn't break this completely because I have some minor amount of integrity as a gamer. You can switch out any enemy type that you've encountered for any other enemy type that you've encountered. So you could theoretically make everything the most babyest enemy in the entire game. So you're just walking around fighting snails the whole time.
I didn't think about it, but I probably could have turned off all the guns that I've had, so that I would be guaranteed to get new guns.
That's a smart choice, because I was just thinking that it would have been really hard, because there's a lot of different stuff that you can get in this game.
By the way, the amount of choices that you had in this game was insane, or the amount of items that was insane.
Oh yeah, it's pretty cool, and a lot of them are very cute and very clever. So I know, like, I think my favorite weapon that I found was a guitar named Summer, and you strum it, and it creates music notes that circle around you, and then eventually they shoot out and home after enemies. So you're just like over there playing your own little mini concert. You don't have to worry about where the enemies are, what's going on. You just go from one side of the screen to the other, and the music notes go flying off, hitting everything that you could ever want. It's beautiful. It's great.
There was also like an upgraded version of it. I don't know what it was called, but it was like an electric guitar.
There was one of those, but then it also, I think it made it so that like your eggs don't hatch or something.
But maybe, yeah. I just remember I got it and it was like, oh, this adds so many projectiles to my screen. And at this point, it's absurd, and this just makes it more absurd. So I obviously have to. Entire right screen was just filled.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, the best run that I had, the last one where I fought Athena, I had the cat gun that shoots out fish bones, and I got an upgrade that makes my projectiles explode when they reach the end of their trail or hit a wall. And then the fish bones thing also has a special thing where when it ends, it explodes into another explosion of projectiles. And I had an ability where every time I kill an enemy, I get one more projectile for that room. So after I sweep through a room, I would shoot once, and the entire direction of that side of the screen would just be death. And that was lovely.
I'm surprised to hear that you got like a lot of the same weapons that I did. Like,
well, there's a lot of variants where you'll get like maybe there's like 3 or 4 different cats that all shoot fish bones, but one of them makes it so your eggs don't hatch, and another one makes it so that maybe they home. They're like there's little tweaks on it. I did notice like there's some repetition. Like I found 2 or 3 different weapons that were musical instruments or trumpets or.
I kept getting noise as a weapon.
Yes, I kept seeing that.
I kept getting that weapon, and I was just like, this weapon is the most mid weapon. It's better than my starter. But like I just paid like 50 gold out of like the 60 gold that I had for it. And I'm like really upset about it. And I was just like, I used it out of guilt.
On the one hand, it's nice because any weapon is better than your starter weapon. But on the other hand, it's not so nice because there are so many upgrades that don't do anything for you. And that just, it feels really bad to get an upgrade that just doesn't work.
God help you if you get a melee achievement in this bullet hell.
Yeah. There's a DLC character that allows you to use a katana that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But even that like doesn't compare to shoot left, destroy all of California. Like that just does. I don't know why they pretended like that was supposed to be a build.
Oh, did you go down the Ares path a lot?
I did it a couple of times. I didn't like it because you have to spend health. So one of the interesting things in the game is the faith meter, which I haven't played Binding of Isaac, but I understand it's just a ripoff of something from Binding of Isaac, where you have certain chests and doors that require a crystal currency to open them, and you increase your wisdom, which unlocks the Athena boss if you do a lot of that, or if you shoot them, they turn into red thorns that you then open by spending health instead of your crystal currency. And I like health. I don't like not having health. So I typically avoided the Ares path.
I found that like before I got some of the rules that unlocked like the secret rooms or made it more obvious, that I was never no one could ever ask me to be part of the Ares squad. But and then I found like the golden rooms or the golden like blocked rooms, I would shoot them and it would just have like 17 hearts just chilling in there. I was just like, well, I guess I'll try it out just to see what it's like. And then I got 3 options and I was like, oh my God, this is way better than Athena. And I don't have to sacrifice anything. And they gave me a badge. And I was like, you get 2 items for 3 hearts? This is sick. I love this.
I want to get into these a lot more specifically. And we can do that in the spoiler section. So to bridge the gap between that and now, let's go ahead and, if you're listening to this, you hear how we're talking about the game. You probably have a pretty good idea about if this is going to be exciting to you. So hopefully that's been a good little spoiler-free section. Let's go ahead and give our final verdicts. What would you rate this game?
This is the bread and butter. It does everything that it wants to do pretty well. I think that there's a lot that it could have done. I think they could have expanded a lot more on, but it feels very similar to what's Pokemon with guns?
Power World.
It feels like Power World, but if
not a forgettable game at all.
It feels like that game. It feels like that kind of style where they have an idea and they're gonna take a bunch of parts and mash them all together, but they don't push any direction.
Yeah, that's exactly my take on it. I don't know anything. I specifically didn't want to look into the background of this to skew my perspective, but it really feels to me, and I hope I'm not insulting anybody who worked really hard on a video game, because you made a whole video game and you did really well for yourself. This is the most popular game we played on Imaginary Game Club to date. Congratulations. It really feels like somebody who played a lot of these other roguelike games and said, I want to make a game like those games. And that was the extent of their thought process.
Like, they did add a considerable amount of polish. Like, the game looks good. It has a style. It has a pretty distinct style.
Yeah.
It has a really good soundtrack when you first load it. And that's where I was kind of at.
I needed more bass in my soundtrack. Like, it did a really cool thing. I love soundtracks that morph into each other. So one good example of this is in Skyward Sword in the market. there's like a market theme, but then each little vendor stall in the market has their own twist on the theme. So as you walk from stall to stall, the music will change.
Really cool.
It's lovely. It's a great little thing, and that's what video games can do. They can actually, riff on what music can be. And this game does a nice little thing where when you get into combat encounters, it kind of ramps up the intensity of the background track from like 2 to like 4. But I want to go all the way up to like 7 and 8. Push me up to like 11. I never felt like it was like, yeah, I'm in it. It's like, all right, keep going. But I don't know.
I really don't know when this game pushes you to an 8 or a 7, in my opinion. I don't know if it was... I played a little bit on easy. And
okay.
I got to the point where I was like, I'm drooling at the keyboard at this point. Like,
did you bump it up to normal?
Bump it up.
Okay. I played on normal for my whole experience. I was curious to hear how yours was on easy mode.
So here's the weird thing. I think the only thing it affects is the drop rate. I don't think it changes the bullet pattern. I don't think it changes the health pool. I don't think it changes anything other than that you get more gold and more hearts more frequently.
Interesting. That makes me sound like I wish I played on easy mode then, because that just sounds like more fun.
Well, it really just didn't feel like any different. And
yeah.
You do get way more crystals. Like
okay.
And
I always had infinite crystals all the time. I never had enough to spend crystals on.
Yeah, I turned into your stream, or not? No, I'm still not crystals, but the rules gems.
Oh, the yellow ones?
Yeah, the yellow.
Okay, the ones that you get for beating the game that you use to upgrade your character between rounds.
Yeah, it's when I looked at your stream, you had way more like rules laid out, and I was like, I've been playing this game a little bit longer than you, and I was like, you just started like on day 2, and you're already on the second page. Okay, sure. Maybe I'm just bad at this game. Who knows?
Okay.
That's what it does. That easy difficulty reduces the amount of gems that you get for completing a final boss and increases the amount of grenades or consumables from
Okay.
It's a weird way to do difficulty.
Yeah. I don't know what I think about that. I played it on normal, and I think for anybody who wants to play this game, normal is probably fine.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just curious, like if you've literally never played a game in this genre and you just want to dip your toes in it and you see it's on sale for $5, then all right, go ahead, check it on easy mode. And if you really feel compelled to play more, then maybe switch it over to normal mode. I would have no recommendation for anybody to play it on a hard difficulty. That just sounds awful to me. So you're giving this game a bread and butter rating?
Yeah, bread and butter.
I'm going to give this game a possibly controversial niche rating.
Okay.
Especially since this was clearly a relatively popular game. It's a game that really sells itself as a bread and butter video game. It's got everything that video games got. It's got bullets, it's got guns, it's got bad guys that you shoot, and it's a platformer, and it's got pixel graphics, and it's bright colors, lots of emissives, and you level up and you fight bosses and you do all the video game stuff. But like, if you're not specifically into bullet hell roguelikes, I just can't see you getting a whole lot out of this. I would recommend most other roguelikes before this. I would probably recommend Hades before this. I would probably recommend Rogue Legacy before this. It didn't hook me.
Yeah.
It didn't hook me in the way that most of these other roguelike games did, which isn't to say that I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm not saying that it's a game that you can't have fun with. I'm just saying that if you don't exist in that niche and you're not like a connoisseur of these kinds of games, you get a whole lot out of it. But if you do exist in that niche, you're going to get something out of it. And if somehow you do and you missed Neon Abyss the first time around, go check it out. It's worth $5. It's all right.
For $5, absolutely. It's definitely worth like $5 for like an hour of your time.
Yeah.
But you can do a couple runs and have a little bit of fun.
Now, if I remember correctly, there was like, I'm trying to envision the layout of the screen that shows all the bosses. There's like 3 or 4 in the middle, and then there's like maybe like 5 below that, and then like 5 above that. So I don't know. Maybe I'm going to pretend like there's 15 bosses. I don't know. Somewhere around there. I killed maybe 5 or 6 bosses.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my fill of the game. I don't need to play anymore. Even though this is a game that you could clearly spend 100 hours in it if you really wanted to, it's a good game club game. You don't need to spend that much to get a full experience out of it. I spent, I don't know, maybe 8-10 hours playing it, and I'm good. I got my fill. Fine. Sometimes that's enough, especially for a roguelike game where you don't need to worry about having 100% everything.
I feel like the game that like they had this idea that they were going to do a cool spin on like Binding of Isaac or Rogue of Legacy, and they were just going to do this like they're going to do this thing, and we're going to add the like functionality of like these eggs. And I feel like these eggs were supposed to be somehow mind breaking, and they were mind breaking in the fact that they were so mid and they were so they were so unnoticeable. And like 9 times out of 10, I never noticed the eggs.
I love the idea of them. I mean, one of my favorite video game experiences of all time has got to be Sonic Adventure Battle 2 with Chow Gardens. I loves collecting me some eggs. I loves hatching me some eggs and giving my little egg babies some upgrades and having them do all sorts of cool stuff on their own. A little bit of automation in there. Heck yeah, I'm down. But I gotta agree with you. The most impressive part of the eggs was just seeing them follow me around, and I don't know what they were doing most of the time.
Yep, and honestly, that kind of goes like into the rest of the game. I didn't know what half of the things that I feel like the biggest like representation of what my frustration with the game is like the Athena choices.
Okay.
Where you would go into the room and it would be this holy place, this lovely, beautiful area, and you could choose two items. And you could look at the left item and you could look at the right item.
Yep.
And that's great. You can choose your destiny. But if I don't know what either path does it have to be a choice? And you just could have just randomly given me one and it would have made the same decision. The only difference now is that I can read the title of the item and maybe get a glimpse of this item that is 9 times out of 10 an inside joke of some fandom that I have to relate to, and then I have to guess the mechanic of that egg.
Whoa.
Of that thing.
Are you telling me that when you find a thing of cotton candy and it's called marshmallow, that you don't know instinctively what that does for your character?
I do not. And I do not know what a tribalistic icon of a head with like green feathers does. If someone could tell me and look at that and be like, oh yeah, that's obviously a melee badge.
Yeah.
You should get that. I never could understand.
That is, there's a lot. That's what you get if you play this game for 100 hours, is after you've memorized every possible icon and all of their effects. And it's like, this game doesn't need to be that hardcore. It didn't need to be that hardcore. Why'd you do it?
I would have been fine if it was that hardcore, but like, what am I getting from being a hardcore player for it?
Yeah.
Like, I was running in the repeat room. I have 1,000 items, 1,000 enemies. I'm running in the repeat rooms on every run, really. I'm finding out that like I recognize the rooms like really quickly where I'm like, oh, this has a secret on top of the base because it's the heart-shaped room. I don't know why it's a heart-shaped room, but you can just go fly up to the top and like there's a secret thing every time. I'm like, great.
Yeah. So, all right. With that out of the way, I think we can officially move on to spoiler territory. Unless if there's anything else you want to give to prospective listeners who haven't yet decided whether or not this game is for them.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that I can say is that the game, it does a very good job at what it tries to be. The problem is that their idea of a bullet hell roguelike just doesn't feel as good as like 5 other rogues.
There you have it. All right. Now, if you're going to stick around, we are going to break down every little bit of this game. So if you want to discover some stuff for yourself, this is your last chance to get off the ride. All right. So if I was to break this game down into just like one phrase, one idea, it's just glorified slot machine. It's not strategic. It's not, there's no fun and rewarding decisions that you make. It's just you string together a long series of upgrades, and maybe those upgrades add up to something incredible, or maybe those upgrades add up to complete garbage, and then you die, and then you play the slot machine again. You pull the lever, and then you get a lot of good upgrades, and then you just win. And at no point when I was winning, again, dopamine factory, I'm seeing lots of bright colors on the screen, and the game is dangling car keys in front of my animal brain, and it's like, yeah, this is fun, great, but it's not engaging. It's like I did it once or twice, and I'm good. I don't need to see that anymore. I saw what it looks like to have bullets all over my screen, and it's not a direct result of my actions. So, who cares?
I'm trying to remember like the best part of the game, and I really wish they focused more on it. The boss fights were sick.
The boss fights were pretty good. I really wish that Argus wasn't the first one, because he has that one move where he shoots the little cables across the screen.
Yeah.
And there just needed to be like a third of a second more time to react, because again, it just kind of felt like this is the part where I take damage, so just accept it. Yeah. And I tried different strategies of, do I want to hug the corners? Do I want to be moving back and forth in the middle? Do I want to be jumping on the platform? Didn't matter. I was taking lots of damage. Maybe I just suck at video games.
Like I said, I'll give myself that I am bad at platformers, and so like there was a lot of like small like attacks that I just couldn't dodge. But like no matter what, the boss fights and in general were always really short, like less than a minute.
Yeah, but that's the other. All right, so there's two things I want to latch onto here, and I'll try to remember them both so that I don't lose my train of thought. But the first is, short is great. I love the shortness of the boss fights, and to me, I wish they took that to an extreme. Like the first part of the game, that the early game when you have no upgrades, why does the most basic squid of an enemy take 3 bullets, and then you have to fight 7 of them per room? What are we doing here? Just make them die to one hit, or they damage me. Either I kill them or they hurt me. That's it. That's the outcome that matters. So get me through this room so much faster. You don't need to make it take 20 minutes just to get to the part where you start to really play the game. That was mind-numbing to me after having played it, even only on my like 7th or 8th attempt. I was ready to just skip to the second room. And that's usually what roguelikes do, is you buy upgrades in between rounds, and then you can apply some upgrades to your character that give you that benefit at the beginning that kind of lets you skim over that early game. But this didn't really work that way. This just allows you to tweak the rules of the game without really buying yourself a ton of upgrades for your character. There is an exception to that. There are a couple of statues that you can get. One of them
garbage. I remember that.
One of them gives you a bonus after having lost 3 times in a row. I don't think I ever lost 3 times in a row, so I don't even really know.
Lost 3 times in a row?
Yeah.
Get hurt 3 times in one room.
No, you have to die and not kill the boss 3 runs, and it gains little X's under him, and then you're supposed to get some bonus. That never happened to me.
Gotcha.
Game's not that hard.
It's even worse than garbage. Gotcha.
It's not great. But then the statue next to that, you can spend your upgrade crystals to, I think they're temporary, only for the next run, to start with some bonus upgrades. So, all right, that's kind of cool. But first of all, you're having to spend upgrade crystals, so who wants to spend permanent upgrade tokens on temporary upgrades? That sounds terrible. And second of all, it doesn't make any sense to waste upgrade crystals on a typical run, because you would want to save those for your third lost run so that you get both bonuses at the same time. Why would you want to alternate between 2 weaker bonuses when you could just save up for one super run and go crazy? So I never felt compelled to take advantage of either of those systems.
That honestly, like with the exception of like the grenade, you had another thing that you went to.
The other one was that it'll come back to me. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, and my, like from start to finish, like the first round, it took way too long. Like the first level was painfully slow because you had to take it slow because you only get 3 hearts. Every enemy takes half your heart, and God help you if you get one of those stupid eggs that leaves a bomb when you jump. I hate the fact that there were so many. There is a way to implement the rule. It's by spending the crystal.
Uh-huh.
But that doesn't work all the time because the rules are incorporated into some of the eggs and the badges. And so some rules were exceptions and you just had to learn them through trial and error That was really frustrating to me because like I still have no idea what the green text for badges means. Because description of the badge and then
Yeah.
index with like this ancient Egyptian thing. What does that do? No clue. There's a thing that says I'm immune to my own grenades on the thing that drops grenades on me. I would really like to activate that. Do I get any options or anything on how to do that? No.
So I can tell you, because I did pull it off exactly one time, and it was very sad because I had a Pegasus mask that allowed me to fly, which completely invalidated all of my crazy awesome double jumps. So that was a little bit of a shame. But then what those are set bonuses. So I think there are 5 upgrades that all have the same thing. And if you get all 5 of them, then it activates the green text. And so I got then a set bonus that disables flying, which then invalidated the Pegasus and then revalidated my other double jump things. It's very mind-numbing when so many upgrades cancel each other out or have nothing to do with your character whatsoever. So one of the biggest things that this game suffered from is a lack of a bucket system. And if you don't know what a bucket system is, the first thing that comes to my mind is the dungeon runs or the solo adventures from Hearthstone. I know this has been used all over the place, definitely a lot in card games, where you're playing like a single-player card game experience, and as you progress, you get new cards added to your deck. But when you pick a card that gets added to your deck, that card has traits. And by picking that card, it increases the likelihood of other cards with that trait showing up in the future. So in card games, synergies between cards are really important. So like if you pick a card that spawns bombs, well, there's other cards that increase the damage of bombs. So you want to get those cards, and then it makes them more likely. So you end up with a greater likelihood of creating a more cohesive deck overall because of the bucket system. It's great. This game desperately needed to have a bucket system, and I don't think it did. It sounds like it has some little bit of control because a lot of our upgrades are the same, which implies to me that there's some upgrades that are like meant for new players. But I definitely didn't feel like once I started getting double jump upgrades, I would get more double jump upgrades. It was just totally random.
I didn't feel like I had a choice at any of it because it was like every item, there's so many items that every one of them was completely new and random to me. And I don't think I saw like a repeat badge. I did see a repeat one. I didn't get a repeat badge, and I couldn't tell you what a single one did without looking at it, being like, that one will work really well with the one that I grabbed in the 1-1. Like that's just not going to happen. I have 47 of them.
Well, if you want to talk about badges, which are the upgrades that you get usually after beating a boss, sometimes you'll get them in the little combat arenas as a reward. There's one sinister badge that I think ruins the whole batch. You've got gun damage, you've got increased projectiles, you've got increased projectile speed, you've got increased heart containers. There's one, it's not a bad one, but it ruins the whole system in my mind. And that is just weapon, or I think it's called gun level. It just increases the level of your gun. And that introduces uncertainty to the whole thing in my mind, because now it's like, well, wait a minute. Does gun level increase damage? If so, then what is gun damage? Well, how are those two different from each other? I don't know anymore. And if you just took the gun level part out of the equation, then all of a sudden the rest of it makes sense.
Well, I guess maybe that's what the thing is that the reason why you and I kept getting the same weapon is because that is a certain like rarity, I guess.
Could be.
And it's just like we were increasing the gun level. So if I increase my gun level 3 times, you probably never saw that weapon because...
Well, no. So I did have to look this up. So I know what I kind of sort of know what gun level does. What gun level does is completely random and depends on your weapon and depends on the level of your weapon. So gun level gives a different upgrade to your weapon based on what level it is and what weapon it is. So like one weapon might gain fire damage at level 3. One weapon might gain increased projectile speed at level 2. And you don't know. There's no way to, as far as I understand, there's no way to know what that will upgrade on your weapon for your weapon. So it's a good thing. It's always an upgrade. You just won't know what it is.
Looking back, like there are, in the lab, right? Or lab or the basement, wherever you can grab the guns.
Yeah.
There's an infinite amount of guns.
There's a lot of guns.
There's like a crazy amount of guns, and I was really excited to get all of them, but I now know how have no clue how to get any of them. They're all like wildly fantastical. I would like to have this rocket launcher that's on the bottom of our screen that I'm sure exists.
Well,
But
I think your pro strat was right. I think what you got to do if you really want to unlock them all is just disable everything that you've ever found so that you're always guaranteed to find something new.
Because oh my god, if I kept getting noise and react like cat, the cat sound good because you could I think you could I got one that you could just right click and you could fly.
That's pretty, yeah, that's pretty good.
And it's like, yeah, that's really good for like so I can get the secret rooms and everything.
Yeah.
That's all good. But what can I get something new? Could I get I don't know any kind of projectile that isn't just shoot forward and bounce? Like, please.
Yeah. And okay, so one of the other big things I want to talk about is I really take issue with this game calling itself a platformer because it's not a platformer. Just because you put literal platforms in the game doesn't mean that your game is automatically a platformer. You don't just get to stick that tag on every game that has a jump button. Because just having a jump button a platformer does not make. Is World of Warcraft platformer? I mean, come on. What's going on here, man? You gotta have more than that. You gotta have actual platforming mechanics. And this game does not have any of those unless if you're counting double jumps. Come on.
I guess you get the problem too is that like if you compare it to Rogue Legacy and Neon Abyss, they're very, very similar. Like in terms of art style and of like how they play.
Yeah.
We can argue about like the differences and everything, but like they're more or less the same. But like there's like not a lot of difficulty with a lot of the platforming. I kept saying that I'm bad at platforming, but like I never struggled on this game, which is surprising. I was like, there was a part where you had to like bounce or where I got like a hidden secret level of Nessie. I don't know if you found that one.
Sir Eat-a-Lot, the guy who you feed the bolts? Yeah.
The bolts, and which could have been explained a little bit other than, hey, you're in a secret zone now.
We need to talk about the narrative a little bit, but I'll come back to that.
I gave up on the narrative, so good luck.
Yeah.
Didn't have a problem with that, and then like I found it again, and I had the wings, and I was like, cool.
Yeah.
There's no difficulty anymore. I can go anywhere I want.
There's an upgrade that I only got once called a hard hat that just turns off environmental damage.
That's hilarious.
So you get that. You could just walk through every trap and it just turns it off.
I didn't like the platforming was really easy. The bullet time was particularly easy for most stuff. A lot of times it just came out so fast that like you just can't react to it unless you know it's coming.
Yeah. They really, to me, gameplay is all about being presented with a situation and then formulating a strategy in response to that and then enacting decisions based on your strategy. And this did not give you the time to do any of that in most cases. It was either very slow moving balls across the screen and you can just go somewhere else, or it's like the teddy bear's head turned pink and then boom, you're dead.
Oh, yep. The teddy bears were
freaking intense.
They were really annoying, but as long as you like had a platform, they were basically useless.
Depending on the kind. There was one that did like an AoE.
It did AoE,
and he was a pain in the butt.
They also don't aggro if you're ever under them, which was wild. I didn't know.
Yeah.
As like I can just shoot up the hall, and this is how I'm supposed to do this.
The aggro radius is weird. Some of the enemy types are really weird. I didn't get the metal type. There's one enemy type that you have to like be on a horizontal plane with them, and then they turn from metal into flesh, and then you can damage them.
Oh yeah.
But you can also damage them sometimes when they're metal, and I don't know why.
Well, yeah, I think it's reduced because like it's because you had the worms that you had to shoot 3 times.
Yeah.
If you got a metal, God help you if you got a metal one, but it would take like 5 or 7 just to.
Yeah.
It was very slow, very painful. And I agree that the bosses specifically, there was like a lot of like, you have to see a pattern. And since you only get 1 life, you have to like immediately deduce what that attack's going to do and how you're going to dodge it. And a lot of times it was like, okay, there's 3 cards. You gotta dodge it. There's an obvious pattern coming to me. I got to find a hole that's going to exist. A lot of times it was, what is this crazy and wacky ball gonna do? It's a DVD little ball now, and it's just gonna bounce around the screen, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be left, could be right. I might die.
Yeah. I I don't want to be too hard on the game because part of the roguelike is you play and then you die to something and then you learn it and then you go back and you do it again and now you've learned something. Like that's how the whole Souls-like genre exists. But at the same time, one thing that's sorely missing from this game that I think would improve that is if you had a layout in the same way that Inscription or Slay the Spire does. I don't know if you played either of those two games, but you'll get an actual roadmap with branching paths to see what the future encounters are, and then you can make choices of which encounters you're going to go to. So it would be really, really fun to me if I had an idea of which bosses I was going to fight, and I could kind of choose which bosses I wanted to fight, and then that would also inform then which upgrades do I want to pick to fight those bosses. Because sometimes you would just get thrown against Hal, the god of racing, or whatever, the little wheel that would go around the room, and oops, my weapon has a very short projectile rate or distance, so I just can't hit him when he's on the walls or the ceiling. So like it just sucks. It just sucks. It's just bad. So if you could say, oh, I'm going to fight Hal, so therefore now I can look for upgrades that are going to have longer projectile, like, great, that sounds like fun. I'm down. This game doesn't have any of that. Why not?
Yeah, and like just having like some kind of foresight to be like, okay, here's on the left side we have Hal, and I have a weapon that can only shoot on the ground. I know this because I'm using it. And on the left side I have I don't know, Zeus or something, and he's also only in the air. So I'm going to, and I still have this gun that only shoots on the ground. I need to go to all the stores, find a gun, and if I get to those guys without a new gun, I'm going to lose.
Yep.
And that's a cool thought process that happens just from that little roadmap. That is replaced by, here are 2 random items, and
you don't know what they do.
Could use.
You don't know who you're going to fight, kind of. You start to get a little bit more control over that once you've unlocked more managers, I guess. So that's kind of cool. You can kind of plan for that for your final bosses, but not for the bosses leading up to them. But you still don't know what any of the upgrades do. So, and so many of the upgrades literally do nothing for your character. I don't know why they put so much effort into adding upgrades to the game based around not having heart containers. As far as I know, there's only one character, the robot, Daft Punk looking dude, who doesn't have heart containers. He only has shields. And then there's like 16 different upgrades that do a thing when you don't have heart containers. I don't know if you know this, but on every other character, when you don't have heart containers, you're dead. It's game over. So why do these upgrades exist? Why can I even unlock them on characters that by necessity have heart containers? I don't know. It's just like that's me pulling the slot machine and losing, where you only get one upgrade per floor, and you didn't get one this time. Whoops.
I kept losing my mind with the choice one. The choice one just blew my mind every time I went into that place. I would get upset every time and be like, it started becoming a joke in my Discord about like, all right, guys, super important decision. Are we going to go with pink flamingo or red hot lipstick?
That is the one defense I'll have. It's good stream content when you can ask your viewers, hey, you pick the upgrade for me, because it makes no difference to me.
It's really just the most like random thing of like, what do you want? No, do
you want toenail clippings or 3-year-old tax returns? I don't know.
That's a melee ability. You lose, idiot.
Oh, that ability spawns 6 grenades every time you jump. And by the way, grenades kill you. So, game over.
Oh, did you notice that like bombs were registered different depending on like what was like throwing it?
What do you mean?
If it was a badge, those grenades hurt you. If it's an egg, those grenades don't hurt you.
Yeah.
That drove me nuts. I was losing my mind. I had a little creature and a little bomb or clown character that was throwing bombs around me, and I was jumping, and there was spawning mines underneath me, and so I didn't know which explosions were me, which ones were friendly, which ones were enemies, which one's my clown. I'm gonna die to one of them. I just don't know which.
That's especially sinister once you make it to the end game and you've got projectiles and explosions happening all over the place. Like once you're lighting up half of the screen every time you shoot your gun, you cannot see any of the enemy projectiles. You don't know what's going on. You can't dodge things anymore. You basically just have to like hide in a corner and slowly inch your way forward so that your projectiles can kill everything off screen before you get too close to enemies and they have a chance to damage you.
Yeah, because you have to specifically target that orange spear, because everyone uses an orange spear sprite for the bullet, and that's the only one that you have to dodge, because you do have 47 like eggs at this point defending you, but they will not stop your own bomb. That just FYI, that will kill you.
Yeah, basically every bomb upgrade to me was worthless because I never used grenades outside of having to open the stone chests and having to open some of the pathways. But even then, they put so many stone chests in areas that you couldn't really get to with your grenade. So like they'd put a stone chest in just like a 1x1 room, and it's like, okay, so in other words, I have to blow myself up to get this chest. There's literally no other, like I'm too stupid to just drop my grenade down a platform or throw my grenade directly up. I have to jump up and throw it at the wall in front of my face. Guess I'm not opening that chest now.
I had this blessed experience of where I got a grenade launcher as a weapon, and I was like, oh my god, this is the dream. I was blowing up every wall for free, no worries, and I could find all the secrets, and I was like, this is the life.
Yeah, but did they hurt you?
Oh yeah. I had to be really careful.
Yeah.
Once I got to the final boss, I was just like, okay, this thing's gotta go. I'm gonna die. I have 3 shields and 1 heart and a dream to beat, I think, Zeus at this point.
That's one of the big problems I had with the character selection, is that usually in these games, you want the choices to all be good, so that it's hard to choose because you want them all. In this game, all the choices were bad and meaningless. So it's hard to choose because I didn't want any of them, especially. Like there's one guy who was the explosives guy. I don't want to use these grenades. They're just going to kill me.
Yep.
There was one guy who had no health. He just had shields. Like, what? You just invalidated half of my health pickups.
Did you ever get the tip of like, don't worry, you'll get used to throwing the projectiles?
After how many hours, I ask you? I certainly not in the first 10.
I was like, I'm getting to the point of this, but I'm never using this for combat. And if anybody asks me to use this for combat, I'm out.
Yeah, and there's tons of upgrades that make grenades better in combat. And there's tons of upgrades that only trigger if you don't have health. And then you get like 6 of those in a row, and you're on the final boss, and your character has no upgrades. And so you lost that one.
Yeah, and I ask you, like, when in God's sake am I going to go into that game? And I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to run at them. I'm not going to fire my gun.
Poke them with my pokey stick.
Poke them with my pokey stick. But after they've shot 3 of them and I've dodged all of them, then I'm going to use my melee attack. And then for ones I can't do that with, I'm going to throw a grenade and I'm going to make my left click useless.
Yeah.
Who is making this decision?
I don't know. And I think what this is part of that same syndrome of guy plays Hades and Rogue Legacy and says, I want to make that game. And then he makes that game without understanding the game. And then you wind up with what he did is he came up with every possible number that could be tweaked. And then he made 6 upgrades for every possible number that can be tweaked, regardless of whether or not tweaking that number produces a significant impact on your game.
And it feels bad too, because like I didn't enjoy it.
You called it bread and butter. It's everything you'd ever want in just a standard video game.
Butter game for someone.
Yeah. We're winning them over to the niche side. Woo!
I temper a lot my opinions, okay? Nothing as garbage as other games, but
still better than League of Legends.
Well, hold on. All right. But what you call it? But yeah, the issue that I had with it is that every room was a slog. Every decision that I had was random. Every boss fight that I had was fun, but lasted about a minute, and then I would do it over and over again. Like I was Hades in this game, fighting my way to hell to get to this boss that I will beat in one.
Talking about Hades, this has the weirdest narrative of any video game I've ever played. It basically has no narrative. which is impressive to be both the weirdest narrative and also a non-existent narrative. But it opens with a weird little cutscene, and you're the dude, and you're talking to Hades, and he's like a dude in a suit, got a cigar and his sunglasses on inside, and he's some cool mafia boss, whatever. And he's like, yo, so I heard this corporation, Titan, they killed your whole family and you. Don't you want revenge? And you're like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, fight the machine. He's down with the man. Let's do this. And then you go and you do some things. And then the next time you talk to Hades, now he's like a producer for a TV show.
Yep.
And they're literally meta-referencing the video game of Hades. And they're breaking the fourth wall, and now you're playing a totally different character. Like, this is a big pet peeve of mine, where there's a bunch of different playable characters. They give the first one a backstory. Your family was assassinated by this company named Titan. None of the other characters fit into the story at all. So as soon as I play a different one, you've just invalidated that opening cutscene.
Muse Dash doesn't fit in the game at all?
I played Muse Dash, the character.
I couldn't stomach it. I was like, I'm not doing it.
It was really fun and impossible to stream. Like, if you were in a Discord call with your friends and playing on that character, I suspect that your brain would have melted down the same way that mine did, where you like you're in psychology, we have a term, working memory, that's talking about specifically like how many units of information can you hold in the front of your mind at one time. And it's about 7, maybe 8. If you're playing the Muse Dash character and you're trying to combo all of your abilities and time your positioning so that you can like deflect projectiles, avoid attacks, and hit enemies at the same time, you're at the limit. I had all 7 things going on in my brain, and I could not think of anything at that point. It was fun, but you can't. It didn't make for a good stream. You were in it.
Yeah. Speaking of the story of breaking the fourth wall, you know what it reminded me of was oddly, because I'm gonna keep referencing it, Banjo-Tooie.
Okay. Yeah.
Like in the tutorial, where like the developer obviously made the game, Kuroko.
Kuroko mods.
Yeah, Kuroko Bytes.
Yeah.
It's a super famous modder, I believe.
He's real big in that circle for sure.
Yeah. He like referenced himself as like, oh yeah, I was self-depreciating. I'm never gonna make a full game. I'm too busy making all these silly mods.
Yeah.
And like adding pad time, and it felt like he has a lot of ground to stand on because he's got that community. He's made a bunch of successful mods.
Yeah.
And I don't know what Vivu has done, but they do not deserve the same amount of credit to break the fourth wall and be like, I'm going to waste the company's time.
Yeah.
Am I the company?
It felt weird. It felt out of place. They did nothing to bridge the gap of you're trying to, I assume you're living in the afterlife or something. But every time you start a new level, it says death is the only way out. So like, am I being brought back to life? Is this the after? Why is hell a cyberpunk city?
And why is there? And then when you beat the boss, it would emit a warm light, and you would fall into sleep. And like,
I don't know.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
It's okay for games to be mysterious, but you got to give me something to hook me. And it just felt completely random, or rather, it felt very much like this is a thing that other games did. So I guess I'll just do this now.
Yeah.
Like, you beat the game. So what happens? You fall unconscious. Because Slay the Spire did it, I guess. I don't actually know if this game came out before or after Slay the Spire, but
it has to be after.
It has to be after, right? So Slay the Spire, you fall unconscious when you've killed a final boss. So I just do that, I guess. Why does that happen? Why am I on a TV show? What happened to my family?
Like, Slay the Spire, the reason why you fall unconscious is that they don't have a good way to like say, okay, you need to play the game again because it's a game about replayability. And you know what? That's fine. Maybe lazy, whatever.
Sure.
This game is not Slay the Spire, because Slay the Spire, I get to have fun making decisions and doing things.
Yeah, I think you're right. Part of the reason that the slot machine, the veil in front of the slot machine falls down and you just see the slot machine for what it is because you really don't get as good a sense of progression between runs of the roguelike that you kind of do in some of the other games, where in Rogue Legacy it always feels like I'm working towards something, or in Hades it always feels like I want to progress the dialogue with a new character, and this game really would have benefited from that.
I'm also comparing it to card games too, though, because like that's only decisions.
Well, true, but I mean that's kind of the direction that a lot of popular roguelikes have gone. Slay the Spire is card game roguelike.
Yeah, and I don't have enough experience with like I played Rogue Legacy. Obviously, I just sucked. How do I talk about a game that like literally kicked my butt from here to the curb? But yeah, no, that game felt like there were no decisions. When I did well, it was only in the first level, and that's by playing as conservative as possible. And by the fourth stage, I could go on autopilot. I could let my dog lick the keyboard. It might get me to the end.
Yeah, and again, we're being real hard in this game, which I think this is probably the most negative experience I've had on Game Club so far. All the other games that we played so far, go check them out. This one, gonna skip one. This is the one to skip so far. But
yeah.
to the game's credit, it didn't devolve all the way to slog for me. It would have if I kept playing. Anywhere past the 10-hour mark, this game's rating would definitely be downgraded from niche to slog. But I didn't quite get there. It was fun enough. It was engaging enough to
The biggest criticism I have to it is that there are a lot of games that do all of the elements that they do better.
Yeah.
And like, but to be fair though, like if I compare this to like the same amount of quality to like I guess at first person shooters.
Mm-hmm.
There are way worse games than this. This game is polished, it's clean.
Yes. To this game's credit, it's complete. And in 2024, that's saying something.
that is saying something. I cannot stress enough that this game is a complete experience. It does feel it feels like it accomplishes its job.
Yeah.
It lacks
cohesion,
lacks
heart, its soul. It doesn't really have a good story.
It's so dramatic to say it lacks inspiration, but it really does.
Yeah.
Like it's lacking something where like I just am not having fun from start to finish to the boss. And I have fun at the boss, and then I do it again for 3 levels.
I think a really good indicator of this, and I don't know if you encountered this to the same extent that I did. Maybe it's just something that I'm like keenly aware of. But it really felt to me like a lot of the rooms, the jump heights didn't match my character's jump height. Like the distance between platforms didn't feel neat and organized to how high I would jump. Like to make a satisfying platformer, you want the distance to be between platformers, both horizontally and vertically, to be similar to your character's jump height, plus a little bit of leeway to allow for human error. So that when you jump from one place to another, you go from the edge of one platform to the edge of one platform. You made the connection. Dopamine goes off. You feel like you accomplished something by timing your jump correctly, by aiming your jump correctly. And this felt really awkward where I was like overshooting things or undershooting things that I felt like I should have been able to make it to all over the place.
I almost think that's like due to the randomness system, because like there were so many items that affected jump height, but like most of them were negligible because why would I ever care about jumping a pixel higher? And that's the only situation that I can imagine that I would, oh, thank God I have this flamingo feather that allows me to jump 1 inch higher.
Yeah. It's really hard to design for a game when you have no idea what your character is going to be capable of by the end of it. And I think in most cases you can safely assume that your character is going to be capable of everything if you make it to the end of it. You're going to have, like, I had, like I mentioned, eggs that went across my screen 3 times, and I had another upgrade that gave me an extra double jump for every egg that I had. I just had infinite double jumps. And you get to the point, and then I completed a set that gave me like a bonus on jump marks or something. I don't even know what a jump mark is, but every time I jump, it would leave behind a giant particle effect.
Yep. And
every jump that I did increased the size of pre-existing jump marks. So I would jump like 12 times, and then the whole screen would just be covered in giant jump marks.
So that, welcome to another trial by execution. But the jump marks are is a marking for other items to affect.
Yeah. See?
Where you could,
and that should be a bucket. That should be a bucket. Once you start to get jump mark stuff, you get more stuff that affects jump marks to make really cool jump marks.
And maybe you got offered them. We wouldn't know because there's a good chance that those existed, but we can't tell you what they do. I get to go to the shop and I get to buy any item that I want. It's random, so yes. Roll the slot machine on any item I want to spend money on.
Did you play the crane game?
Yeah, I did not like that.
I pulled it off exactly one time.
That's amazing.
I guess that's something that you get good at, but gosh darn it, it really was frustrating to go spend 100 coins and just completely tank an entire run.
Oh, did you get the lottery doors?
Yes.
That stuff made me want to throw the entire like. I was about to uninstall at one point because I couldn't find. I didn't know where the exit was. The only door that I haven't gone through was the stupid lottery system. Wait, I have 50 coins. I can spend it on here. Melon. I was just like, is this the only way? I found the other path, and it was like not the only way. But like, why? I hate so much.
I do kind of like that you can step your toes into a room without activating it. So you can check to see if it's a path that you want to go on. And then by stepping your toes into a room, it will also show you the silhouette of any rooms that it's attached to. So you get like a micro version of the Slay the Spire inscription layout, but it's not great. And it takes so much extra time. You could have just like shown me that ahead of time.
It's definitely closer to Rogue Legacy. I think Rogue Legacy does that. And if I had to guess in the coding, they don't know where those rooms exist until you walk into that room.
Maybe, but there is a seed. So, like, theoretically, the whole thing is predetermined.
Yeah. I didn't like the lottery system of the door. And, oh my God, I still don't know what the shopkeep's doing there. I don't know why he offers keys either. Like, have you ever had a laptop?
No. That seemed like it wasn't super balanced in terms of the currency rewards.
I'd find because age before keys.
I always had you have nothing until you have everything. Yeah. And there's no middle ground of like making choices. It's the first 2 floors you have nothing, so you can't do anything. And then from the 3rd floor on, I have 12 keys, 8 grenades, infinite crystals, and I'm leaving crystals behind in every room I go through, and never enough heart containers.
I found an item. Talk about useless items. Is that I got the magician's hat. I remember this because I was like, oh, that's a really funny. So it was like, oh, you see 1 key and there's 2. And he would every time you picked up a key, you get 2 keys.
Okay.
And I was like, great. I have 17 currently. By the end of it, I had 100 keys, and I was like, there are not enough boxes.
Yeah.
Can I shoot keys? Can I throw keys? Like, can I do anything?
Yeah. They really needed a way to like inefficiently transfer one currency to another, and I think they tried to create that with the rules because you can buy these little stands that allow you to spend one currency. So like, there's a little stand that you can spend currency or spend keys to get stuff, but like the likelihood of finding it is very low, and you have to unlock it in the first place anyways. It's not like an inherent system in the game, and even then, like, you swapped your keys for grenades and crystals. Great. I had infinite of all 3 of those, so who cares? I need to be able to change my keys for heart containers. Like, take all 18 of my keys to give me 2 heart containers. Ooh, that's a decision now.
Yeah.
Do I want to make that choice? I don't know. That's a hard choice to make.
Yes, every time.
Well, sure. Yeah. So I mean, I feel like we've kind of been crapping on the game quite a bit, and completely fairly.
Yeah.
To try and balance it out a little bit. What was your favorite experience in the game? What was your favorite moment where you're like, yeah, I'm having a good time. I got some value out of my 10 plus hours that I dunked into this.
Yeah, so the best time that I had was like it's just, you get the power trip. It's the biggest power trip that you've ever had. It's but
the enemies don't get stronger at the same rate that you do.
Yeah, and you and also but like you just get like super strong. There is a level of skill that it takes to get to that point, but it's just kind of it feels undervalued because how good are you at gambling?
I think the most satisfying and unique part of the game for me is the basement, is the laboratory. And the most satisfying part of the game is when you get killed by some stupid teddy bear. And so you go down into that lab and you just turn him off forever. You just delete him from the video game. And that's great because that's something genuinely different that I don't know if that's being ripped off from something else.
I didn't actually think about like how cool it is that you can just turn off those effects and that there's so many items. Like there is an insane amount.
Yeah. I do wish that I wish it was more of a decision-making process of, okay, you can turn off this one enemy, but the other enemy gets stronger or something. Rather than just, why not turn all of the enemies you don't like into
worms? Yeah.
Why? There's no reason not to. The real reason not to is that if you do it too much, it turns off achievements. But it's also a really weird punishment because for one, I don't care about achievements. And for two, I don't even know what the balance is. It just says, if you do it too much, don't do it too much. And I'm like, how many is that? I don't know.
Granted, what is Neon? Or so I know we use how long is that game?
Yeah, there's a website you can go to check how long the average completion of a video game is.
I don't think I got close to the ending of that game at all.
No, like I mentioned before, I think there might, let's say if there's 15 manager dudes on that page, I think maybe I fought 5 of them.
Yeah, I got to the there's 5 on there's 3 main ones, and then you get unlocked the 2 ones, but you can't select one of them, so you have to fight Athena.
Yeah, getting the tokens was really annoying because not only do you have to fill up the meter, but you have to fill up the meter multiple times, at least for Ares. It seemed like every time I went to the wisdom room, I got an Athena token, but I only got 1 Ares token ever. And then every subsequent time, that seemed like there was a little meter on the wall that got filled up a little bit more. But to go to Ares in the first place, you have to sacrifice a ton of health. So it's like, you have to go to Ares like 3 or 4 times in a run to get a token? Like, are you kidding me?
Well, the problem is that yes, Ares would happen by accident because you would be shooting in a room. Maybe it was just me because I was just idly shooting because I was like walking, and I would hit the door and I would have to pay health.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. Thank you for ruining my wisdom. I was almost full, but
does it ruin your wisdom?
Yeah, it flips it.
I know it flips it, but then if you flip it back, doesn't it kind of retain it?
How do you flip it back? Because you can't.
Well, the next time you spend crystals.
Oh, really?
Unless if you fill up the meter, it's done so. But while you're filling up the meter, you can then just go use crystals again. But I don't know how the translation rate works between those two things.
You can flip it back. I think once you flip it to Ares, you can't flip it back because there was a tip warning that
really
be careful of where you're shooting because if you hit a chest, you could get points toward Ares, like it was a bad thing.
I don't know. It's a weird system that is not cleanly explained, and it's
welcome to the biggest complaint.
And it didn't feel like a very good trade-off because on the one hand you're paying crystals, which is the most useless currency in the game, and on the other hand you're paying health, which is the only currency in the game that matters. So just go for Athena until but theoretically you have to beat Ares at least once to make progress in the game.
But yeah, and speaking more about that, because I just got reminded, moldy hearts. Those things pissed me off.
The moldy hearts, yeah.
Not because of their mechanic, but because I didn't unlock moldy hearts for the longest time because I just want to spend money to get down that chain because that's how
I didn't go down that route in the upgrade tree, but I still ran into moldy hearts a lot because there were certain pets or other upgrades that did it.
Stupid cat.
Yeah.
Tom or whatever your name is, you stupid cat, will go up and just grab your hearts and make them moldy. And I'm like, why? What benefit do you provide? And the answer is none. And how do I get rid of them? The answer is none. And how did I get him so I can avoid him? The answer is I did nothing different.
Yeah.
Not an egg. And he spawned as a cat that sucked.
I would have liked it a little bit more if you had a little bit more control over it. Or like, what if you turn keys into moldy hearts? What if I turn grenades into molly hearts? What if you just left my frickin' hearts alone? Because I need those.
I have to do the whole thing again, and I have to go through level 1 again.
Yeah.
With an umbrella somehow.
Yeah. It would be nice if you could, like, unlock a rule that says start on floor 3 and get 2 random upgrades. Yeah. All right. I'm in. Let's do it. I'm down. I'm down for that.
Yeah, I guess maybe I no matter what, the game probably gets really good later. But like, if you've put in 10 hours and I put in close to like 8 or 9,
Yeah.
not anywhere near that. I don't.
I think
I'm not chasing that golden road.
in 2024, there's still obviously a bunch of kids out there that have way too much time on their hands, and they're gonna say, "Oh my gosh, it gets better after the 120th hour. What are you even doing?" I think now more than ever, there are more people that agree with me, and it sounds like you too, that you shouldn't have to get through 7 seasons of something for it to start getting good. It should just be fun from the moment you sit down and play a video game. Don't make me put 50 hours into Starfield to start enjoying Starfield. Just let me have fun. That's what we're here for. That's what I paid money for you to do to me, to give me the fun. Give me some fun. And I agree with you. It was a little bit lacking. As somebody who's not like a super diehard bullet hell man, and that to me is kind of the biggest problem, is that you typically add labels to games to try and make them more inclusive and to try and catch more people's attention. So you're like, it's going to be an action game, great. It's going to be a shooter, great. It's going to be a pixel platformer, great. It's going to be a roguelike, great. It's going to be a bullet hell, great. So all those people that like those games will want to come check out your game, and clearly they did, because it seems like it's a successful game. But on the flip side of that, I don't really like bullet hells. And so even though I like all the other things, the bullet hell part kind of puts me off. And the other parts weren't great enough to outweigh the parts of it that I didn't like. And it just kind of left me feeling like, looking forward to next month of Game Club.
No matter what, great art.
Very pretty game.
Very pretty game. Very stylized.
If you're into synthwave, you'll love the music. I'm not super into synthwave because hearing, kick, snare for like 8 hours on repeat just starts to drill into my brain, and I can't do it anymore. I've listened to 1 or 2 synth playlists on the YouTubes, and that's enough. It's enough synthwave for me. I need to wash my brain of that.
Yeah, I can't tell you too much about the music because I liked it. I thought I was having a good time with it, but the problem was that it got stale after.
Yeah, I didn't dislike it, but I agree. Yeah, it was. It started to grate.
I don't think it had a lot of tracks. I think that's like the biggest issue, that I cannot tell you a single track that wasn't the opening theme.
Yeah.
I know that you're right that the music got more intense, but I'm pretty sure it's the same track.
Yeah. And you didn't get a lot of variety in the levels either. Whereas in like Rogue Legacy, each different corner of the castle has like a totally different theme. And in Hades, as you go down in floors, you go through like the different stages of hell. Yeah. And in this, you just neon cyberpunk.
You live in a castle, kind of.
It's like a weird sewer. It's like a weird neon lighted sewer
that has a lot of bricks, and you eventually fight gods, but they're weird gods, like the god of gambling, the god of makeup,
like
the god of social media.
Yeah, talk. God of videos.
God of videos.
But like, what does that have to do with getting back at Titan for your family? What does that have to do with being on a TV show? What does that have to do?
There's no. I think it's fair to say the game.
But it could still, even if it doesn't have a story, it could still have a wrapper.
I don't even think it has. I think it knew exactly what it was.
It's gun. You shoot bullets. Yeah.
You get to the bar, go to the dance thing. You press E, and the music gets louder. You go to the right. You change your character to the newest character that you unlocked. You jump down the hole, and you kill the thing. This is the story. This is not Dungeon of Endless. This is not. I just remembered like a bunch of roguelikes that I used to do. I don't like platformers, so I found roguelikes. They're just.
There you go. But it's telling to me that you didn't think of any of the other roguelikes until now, because all this talking about Neon Abyss didn't remind you of any of those.
It's clearly just
Yeah.
a synthwave fusion of 80s roguelite or Rogue Legacy and Binding of Isaac. It's
Yep.
If I held a gun to a guy and I said, make a video game combining these three games with synthwave, I feel like I'd get this.
I think you're probably right. And I think that covers just about everything that I've got to say about Neon Abyss. We were brutal. We were brutal on this one.
Yeah, I apologize. I was trying to come in with like positive notes, and like every time I thought of the positive notes, I was like, it was mid.
It did a lot of things, and it did a lot of things in a what's one word weaker than satisfactory? Just adequate in an almost adequate way.
Yeah, it did. It feels bad to say because because like I said, it is polished.
Yeah,
it accomplished everything that it wanted to accomplish.
Sure did.
Correct. It just everything combined at the end of it was not fun for me, and it just was okay. I could stomach playing it, but I would rather go grind out another game of League.
Oof. The worst possible rating of them all. I could have played League instead.
League is a fun game. I'm sorry. Not for everyone.
All I'm saying is, if you want to go play a better roguelike, then maybe go check out Rogue Climber over on Steam. I haven't been talking about it just yet because at the time of this recording, it's not up. But by the time of this is published, there should be available on Steam. Trailers, screenshots, Steam page for upcoming video game title Rogue Climber. Go check it out. It's going to be an action roguelike platformer.
I love all. I remember that. I just love platformers.
Taking inspiration from obviously a lot of the roguelikes that we've been talking about here, with progression system similar to Vampire Survivors, and level design a la Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, or what's the cheap ripoff one? Only Up. That got into trouble for using a bunch of stolen assets.
and apparently the developers were not great guys either.
You're telling me that somebody who just stole a bunch of free assets off the internet and copy and pasted them into a scene with an asset pack character controller and sold that as a completed video game is not an upstanding member of the game development community?
But to be fair, my reference is Ludwig, which is probably not the best one.
Okay. I don't know anything about the people who made it. I just know that there was controversy over Only Up getting removed off the Steam store.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about that with Rogue Climber because everything's going to be made by hand, by me, by yours truly. So check it out. Want to support the podcast? Allow me to get a wide angle lens for the camera so that we're not being pushed all the way off to the sides if you're watching this in video format.
Or you could just buy YouTube Premium so that you not have ads on the TV.
Help me buy YouTube Premium, please. I don't need ads.
It's like $17.
All right, let's do it. That's gonna be maybe like 4 or 5 copies of Rogue Climber when all is said and done. So let's make it happen. Go check it out. Wish listed on Steam, please. I'm begging you. I'll make a bold statement that you might even like it more than Neon Abyss. So there you go. There you have it. Next month up on just to double check, is there anything else that you want to say about Neon Abyss?
I'm good.
Alrighty then. Next up, usually I would announce what the game is that we're going to do for Imaginary Game Club. Have not yet picked a title at the time of this recording. So if you want to make sure that you're up to date with the game that we're going to be playing next month, go to imaginarygamestudios.com, click on the link at the top of the page to go to the Discord server, and you will see when we announce next month's game. What we are going to be playing is an RPG, which I'm really excited about because so many RPGs in this day and age feel like they always need to outdo each other with how long they freaking are.
Yep.
I've been playing through Persona 5. I'm only 9 years late to that party because Persona games are so freaking long.
But it just came out on Steam recently.
Oh, did it? I don't know. I'm playing it on a PlayStation. I got my Steelbook edition right over here.
Oh, good.
Which I think is maybe the second or third time I bought this game, because I bought it. Persona 4 was like one of my top 10 games of all time. I really loved it. So when Persona 5 came out, I'm like, heck yeah, I'm gonna play the sequel. Bought it, didn't play it. Well, then they came out with the better edition, the Royal version. So I bought that, and then I don't know what happened to my Royal copy 3 or 4 years later. So Steelbook, I get that. It's on sale. Great, good. And now I'm finally playing through a sequel to one of my favorite games of all time, 9 years after it came out, and only 3 or 4 spin-offs later, and 6 re-releases, and now they're back into remaking Persona 3. So we're probably like another year or 2 out from a remake of Persona 5. Who knows? But they're so freaking long. I'm over 100 hours into this thing. I've been playing it for months. It's too much time. So
every time someone talks to me about Persona, tell me about the amount of days they spend in the game, and then how many times they tell me about how many days they spend in the days. I lose my mind a little bit, and I'm like, I feel like this game would have been awesome when I was like a teenager.
Yeah.
And had infinite time. That sounds sick.
Yeah. Yeah. The one good thing, the one saving grace I'll give to Persona 5, or really any of the Persona games, is that they're kind of separated into different dungeons. And so it's kind of got a natural, like, little stopping points in between dungeons. So, like, you can play it for a week, set it down, come back a little bit later. And one of the really cool things, I'm not here to, why am I spend all this time to talk about it? I really like Persona. If you haven't played Persona before and you're interested in a really, really long RPG, go check it out. But if you're like the rest of us who don't have 100+ hours to dedicate to a new RPG, then make sure you stick around for next month's Game Club, because we're going to be picking something shorter, just like we do with all of our titles. We're going to be looking for something ideally that can be completely beaten in under 10 hours. So when's the last time you played an RPG? Probably maybe been a little while. I don't know. What's the last RPG you played?
Can I tell you?
Not even Baldur's Gate 3? That was big.
Oh yeah, Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay.
Baldur's Gate.
Right.
I never beat that game. That game has the very niche problem that I cannot motivate myself to play it by myself.
Yeah, I was so disappointed because I was planning on playing that split screen with a friend or something, but then when it first came out, they did like a weird early access thing, and you could like only play up to like level 10 or level 20 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't really want to do that. I want to wait until it's out. And then like it comes out eventually. A week later, everybody I know has already played 100 hours into it. It's like, well, oh, all right.
I'm playing with like my buddies.
Uh-huh.
It's like it's off again, on again. We go for on Friday.
Okay.
And it's like the most like weird experience being like everyone else has already beaten this part.
Yeah.
And they're like pushing me to do all the dialogue, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna play as a character, but like, and so that's fun, and so I get to hit all the content, which is nice.
Uh-huh.
But man, I got three buddies I'm seeing so many dicks and so many like, people get thrown. It's been a contest between 2 of them who was gonna throw who, because it's just a reaction game, it seems like. And so it's a lot of fun, but we're not moving through the story very fast.
Uh-huh.
Man, I just want to, every time I feel like I'm on like the vicious cycle of like, I play the game with my friends, I have a great time. I wish that I could play solo. I play solo, I'm not having a great time. And I just don't play. And then I'm like, the next Friday, I join with my friends. I'm like, oh.
Multiplayer RPGs are the best. Open world multiplayer RPGs are always great. Love those when you can play when you play RPGs with your friends. Those always make it so much more fun. But as a busy adult, it just seems like every time I pick up an RPG, everybody I know has already sunk 100 hours into it. They've already watched 18 different video essays on YouTube that are 2 hours long each, that break down every exploit and secret and complaint and positive thing that's ever been said about it. And so by the time I pick up the game, it's like, well, I don't know. I'm out of the loop.
I keep losing my mind with what is an RPG at this point? Is it just a role-playing game? That
was actually when I was in grad school. I went to grad school for making video games. Okay, so I'm an expert on this. we had a whole lecture about the difference between mechanical RPGs and narrative RPGs. And I think most gamers probably understand RPG to mean mechanical RPG, where you're talking about the Baldur's Gate, Final Fantasy, World of Warcraft
options and stuff.
You've got a character sheet, and you level up your character, and you unlock abilities, and there's going to be lots of number crunching and lots of skill trees, talent trees, gearing and loot, and all that kind of stuff that kind of defines the RPG genre mechanically as a math game. But then there's also just the narrative component of an RPG, of a role-playing game. Literally, the words are role-playing game. You are playing the role. You are inhabiting a character. And a lot of times they overlap. Final Fantasy, you become Cloud, and you're playing as Cloud.
I had a really big argument because I was like talking about like oddly Persona.
Yeah.
It was like Persona as a JRPG, and like what distincts JRPGs from RPGs, and I was having a really hard time saying that JRPGs
grinding
are a lot involve a lot of grinding. Like Final Fantasy, I would almost consider a JRPG, but that gets.
I mean, Final Fantasy is the JRPG. Let's be clear here.
It's the JRPG, but from a Pokemon perspective, it's also an RPG, but that's not a real RPG. But is Borderlands an RPG? Well, are you saying that Borderlands and Final Fantasy are the same game? I get lost.
Yeah, I mean, if we're being absolutely clear here, Pokemon is a creature collector game or a creature battler, and Borderlands is a looter shooter.
But they both have, you both have to make decisions that are your character. Well, I guess specifically Final Fantasy versus Borderlands.
Yeah. So would I call Borderlands an RPG? It's definitely a mechanical RPG, but the heart of it is the looter shootering, and not it's definitely not a narrative RPG. Like, I'm not inhabiting my character and making choices as that character. And I think what really signals the narrative RPG is when you feel like you're making decisions that you wouldn't make because the character would make them. Cyberpunk is, I think, a great example of that. Even though it does have mechanical RPG elements to it too, for sure. One of the cool things about Cyberpunk is that I don't think it has a single likable character in the whole game. I hated everybody, and they were all like realistically human, and they had flaws, and all the romantic interests had baggage, and they were annoying, and that was kind of great and refreshing because it wasn't just 100 anime waifus that all doted on me constantly.
Yeah, it's not Mass Effect where like I have to pick between the
literal genetic perfection versus the hot alien scientist babe.
I shaved head alt girl that's going to probably kill me.
I mean, people have their own opinions on crazy chicks, so won't go there. But in Cyberpunk, like V, your main character, I don't really like him either. He's kind of stupid and doesn't have a lot of motivation or doesn't have a very strong personality. But like, it was kind of great because then I could make choices that felt like they fit with V's character. And that to me, when you get that experience, I'm in RPG land.
To be fair, like that's a lot of games. Is that the main character is borderline? Are you going to repeat the grade kind of borderline?
Unintentionally, I think so. I think most RPGs have a design goal of wanting to honor the player's decision making. Obviously, that's impossible to do every time, but you typically want to try and give the player some degree of agency in your universe and say, like, they want to be able to make decisions that have impact, and you want the world to then respond to their decisions and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. To make the anime waifu Mass Effect game a little bit more doty. Like, John Shepard is not a very smart guy. His entire goal was, I'm going to make my team happy and I'm going to shoot good. That was his entire plan.
Yeah, I mean,
he never came up with anything clever like that. That was everybody on his team, which is fine.
He was an example. He was the talkative version of Master Chief. He was like the stoic guy that you impart yourself onto. You become Commander Shepard when you're playing Mass Effect, I think, in a way that I don't feel like I become V when I'm playing Cyberpunk. Because Commander Shepard didn't have as many personality traits.
Master Chief is a very funny one. He is not the brightest, but he's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
Very funny.
I mean, that's the lore that everybody likes about Master Chief the most, right? Is he is not the best at anything, but he's the second best at everything, and that's what makes him cool.
What's funny is that he is like the best in lore. He's like the best. He's just the god among humans. He's got multi-million. He's got Jeff Bezos pumped in.
All right, friends. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for our discussion today. If you wanna follow along and listen to us talk more about fun RPG stuff, and that tickles your gamer funny bone, make sure you join us for next month's episode of the Imaginary Game Club. Again, if you want to keep up to date with the games we're playing, make sure you hop down in the Discord by going to imaginarygamestudios.com and clicking on the link to the Discord server at the top of the page. Next month, we will be joined by a friend of mine who has done systems design work, has done balancing work, and that'll be a very fun and interesting perspective to get when talking about RPG games. So, hope you'll be joining us for playing through that game, Mr. Brandon. And thanks for being here today. It's been really fun talking to you, and I'm glad you played through Neon Abyss. And I hope next time we get you on here, we can play through something that's maybe a little bit more agreeable to our gamer palates.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I just need to tell myself no more platforms.
All right, so we'll be playing Sonic Unleashed and in the next. All right, that's gonna be it for me. This has been Caxed as always. Until next time, we'll see you later.
Thank you.